and welcome to the We Hack Purple podcast. We are a weekly podcast where we teach you all about the different types of careers that you can find in information security. And today we have a special guest, Kim Lamoureux, and she's also known as Gadget Squirrel on the interwebs. And we are sponsored by Sonatype today. And I want to tell you, thank you so much for coming. And hi, I am Tanya Jenka, and I am the voice. And my guest, Kim.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. I am very pleased to have you here, and I am pleased to guests that I know on the podcast, but who all don't do the exact same thing for a living. Because InfoSec has a bunch of different types of jobs, and it's not only AppSec all the time if you invite people other than just Tanya. Okay, so I have a list of interview questions, which I very wisely tweeted before this meeting. So first of all, please tell us your name and your handle and how people can find you online, or what they would call you online.
So my Twitter handle is Gadget Squirrel. So you can find me on Twitter. I don't tweet much these days. I do a lot of retweeting, but I do a lot of. I love the InfoSec community on Twitter, and that's where I learn a lot, and that's where you and I met before we met in person. So it's a great resource for information and networking. And
sometimes you meet
Kim
friends.
Lamoureux is my name as well. You can find me on LinkedIn, but I'm more of a human on Twitter than I am on LinkedIn.
I think that's true of everyone, actually, if I think about it. So this is a podcast about different types of jobs. So I was wondering if you could tell us what your job title was, but then kind of like try to describe your job to someone who's never done anything in your area before.
Yeah, so my current title is Staff Security Analyst. That's a little general, but I work in governance, risk, and compliance. So we are not everyone's favorite people, but it's I would say that governance, risk, and compliance requires a lot of different hats. My day-to-day is, on paper, risk management. So what we do is we are the resource for, engineers, developers, or, even our own security department. We're the resource of whether or not they want to implement an application, or if they want to build a new thing, whether or not it meets security requirements, security policies. Because a lot of times security policies either are too vague, or maybe they are very prescriptive and don't follow what they are trying to do. And so our role is to try to guide them through that and to evaluate, the risk of them, pursuing an avenue that may not be, something that's been, quote unquote, allowed in the organization. We also do third-party risk, which requires, anytime an engineer, I'm just saying as an example, an engineer, developer wants to buy a new thing from a vendor. Our job is to ensure that contractually, they are protecting our data and our customers' data, and that they also, adhere to security policies and procedures that protect our customers' data. A lot of, breaches occur. The majority of breaches do occur due to security incidents from a third-party vendor, and so that is our arm as well. And then the fun part, the C in GRC compliance. I also
you just called C the compliance the fun part. I need an explanation, Kim.
It's the fun part. So I'm like kind of a masochist. I like doing things that people don't like to do. So I run the PCI program for the company that I work for, and PCI is the payment brand standard for credit card customer compliance. So I do that as well, and so I say that in a funny, like, tongue-in-cheek way, that compliance is fun. Sometimes it's not fun. It's not fun to tell people, that they are doing something they're not supposed to be doing, that they have to fix it.
Well, I mean, I have to say, just imagining you like a little bit with just like, go do this, like Kim walking around like this overlord. You have big stilts, obviously, so you stand above everyone.
Yeah. Well, no, it's interesting you say that. So, I have an audit background as well. So, the beginning of my career, I was an IT auditor, and I learned early on in my career that, being an internal auditor, now working in security in GRC, is you have to work with, the people that you're on stilts, like, I could be the bad guy and like being like, you have to do this, but I have to work with them. And, I have to work with them for years and years. And so if I want to maintain a good working relationship, it has to be more of a partnership and less of a, you shall do this or you cannot do that. So I take pride in building relationships with people and learning from people around me. I don't know everything. I don't, a lot of times my job is to provide requirements, say for, a developer or an infrastructure engineer or or an AppSec, application security,
person
analyst that is building a scanning tool. So I don't know everything, and so a lot of times it's like, walk me through this process, tell me how this works, and then being able to methodically provide guidance around what I know, which is security standards and policies and compliance.
Awesome.
And the guidance around that.
So I used to be a coder, and I would literally sit at my desk and code and just like zone into the code. It's like time would just pass without me. And I would realize that I had all these empty Coke cans around me at some point, and I had not like gone to the bathroom in 5 hours, and I was like, I need to like walk around the block. And then I remember when people were like, oh, you should be a project manager. And then I asked them, what is a day life in the project manager job? And I was explaining basically like you have to do lots of meetings. And when I was younger, I was not as social as I am now. And I was just like, no, screw that. That's not for me. And like I like other people, but the idea of being in meetings like 8 hours a day, I was like, no, I can't do this. So what is it like to do what you do? Like, what is a day like when you come to work? Is it email? Now I email for a living. That's why I tell people I'm a CEO, and I literally send emails all day.
Yeah, so optically, my day involves meetings, a lot of meetings, and but more of behind the scenes. A lot of it is tons of Slack conversations.
Yeah.
So in between, emails that come in and requests and Jira tickets that come in, requesting things. I'm in the background a lot of times getting information or getting groups of people together in group conversations to kind of tie together, possibly gaps or like loose ends. Mm-hmm. And so my job requires a lot of multitasking. A lot of times what I plan for the day ends up not being what I intended the day to be like. So this is not for somebody that is, very methodical in how they plan their day.
Mm-hmm.
I expect to, achieve these 5 things by the end of day today, and that's it. I have that, but a lot of times priorities change because we're also, you speak a lot about shifting left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by shifting left and integrating security early on,
Mm-hmm.
that means being in tandem with the business. And so that means that I'm not that gate at the end where, it's something that can be scheduled. I can schedule it out, and that's something we do at the end. A lot of times I'm part of the creation process, and I'm part of the thought process. Either it be, they're thinking about bringing in a new vendor, or they're thinking about, implementing a new thing to solve a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so with that being said, you can't plan for stuff like that. You can't plan for, things that change, or you can't plan for a last minute vulnerability that needs to be patched. And oh my gosh, it's not that easy to patch, and we have to try to figure out how to, build some controls to
Scary.
To make it less scary. I was trying to think of one technical term.
Reduce risk, less scary.
Less scary. Yeah.
That's awesome. And also that's good for me to understand a bit more, because I feel AppSec is a lot like that. There's a lot of weird informal conversations that end up with like huge value later.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't see that. It's not visible in, like, you were talking about coding. It's not visible in pull requests. It's not visible in tickets. It's not visible, but a lot of it is like behind the scenes work. It's a lot of conversations, a lot of collaboration, a lot of anticipating. Sometimes the work I do is, oh, hey, like I just learned this new thing. I wonder if this other team knows about it, and kind of looping people in so that, you're not working in just one, one silo.
Yeah. Great minds think alike. We're both like, silo, yes.
Yes.
So did you hear that I wrote a book?
I did?
Yeah. And
I may not have heard about it during one of our Lyft rides.
In California at AppSec Cali, perhaps?
Yeah.
Kim and I met for the first time at a conference called AppSec Cali. Well, we met on the internet, but then we on purpose met in person because I was like, this chick's awesome.
Yeah, this is, nowadays it's normal to meet people on the internet and then meet them in person.
Yeah, but it used to be weird, but now it's called InfoSec.
Yeah.
So I wrote a book and it just went for sale, and it is on Amazon and all the other places. And I was told to tell people about it. And so I am going to take 1 minute and tell everyone about Alice and Bob Learn Application Security. It is a book and is on all the places where you can buy books, and you should pre-order it. I feel like that is me. I'm awesome at marketing. Did you know that?
When does it launch? When does it?
So it ships October 27th. Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
Just in time for Halloween.
I know. So I'm really excited about that, and I was told to tell everyone, so I just did that. Check mark. You're really good at marketing, Tanya. I'm trying.
Yes.
Okay, so I have way more questions that are about your job. As you might have guessed.
More.
Okay, so I feel like different types of jobs require different types of personality traits. And so what types of personality traits do you think someone needs to be good at your job? Like, do they need to be empathetic? Do they need to have strong leadership skills? Do they need to, have great attention to detail, or all the things?
All the things. I think that, you and I have talked about this a lot, is I think a lot of times, companies, hiring managers, they focus so much on the technical. And I even hate calling it soft skills, because I feel like these skills are still technical. Like having attention to detail, that's a technical skill.
Yeah, I don't consider that a soft
Like,
skill. It's more like a personality trait. Even.
Yeah, you just have to like not follow a formula. You have to just always notice. One of my strengths, I took a personality. I'm like a personality test taking addict. I like taking them. And one of my qualities is pattern recognition. And I never really thought about that until, after I took the test. I'm like, oh, I think that makes sense why I'm able to kind of tie things together, and why, with the job that I have now, why like things just kind of click for me, because I notice it doesn't matter what the content is, right? But if I notice certain patterns, I'm still able to reach conclusions, or I'm still able to like ask the right questions to get me to where I need to be to provide some guidance, right? Mm-hmm. So I think like definitely attention to detail, and attention, like paying attention to what people say and being able to connect, to kind of like file that for later. Mm-hmm. I find that people who struggle with being able to like retain certain trends that occur like in the business or whatever, to be able to kind of like connect the dots. You need to be able to kind of have your eyes and ears open and kind of connect things. Because a lot of times people don't know, maybe sometimes they don't even know what they're asking for.
Like, yeah, they don't really spell out the whole thing for you.
Yeah, so you kind of have to play almost like an interview. You kind of have to kind of dig a little bit, or learn, being able to master the ability to ask the same question in a different way to get the same result. I had a conversation with a coworker, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I was talking about how I am able to change how I ask for things depending on that person's working style or personality. And he was like, what? How? I don't understand. How do you do that? And I'm like, yeah. You don't do that? And he's like, no, what, like, tell me more. And so I think being able to just know how to read people, like I find that if you take the time, empathy, you take the time to understand, what the other person's working, what their goals are, what they do, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm a risk person, you're an AppSec person. Mm-hmm. What do you do all day? What is your work day like? And being able to ask for something from you in a way that's not completely disruptive from your day-to-day work. I think that's also important too, is that my job is not more important than your job, right?
Yeah.
So just having that, like, it's so important to just, I can't stress enough, like, relationship first with working in any security role. I think is your role is to educate and to guide and to collaborate, not dictate.
Yeah. Okay. So I wish every security person ever could hear what you just said and then like adopt it as their new mantra. Because I'm like, don't act too excited. Like, don't freak me out how much you agree. We have a really good question from the audience. So what's one skill that you developed in your job or like working, in this type of role that you didn't anticipate you'd need in information security?
The people skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The technical stuff, like, you can take classes, you can take tests, right? But the biggest thing is the people skills. And I used to call myself, we talked about this, I used to call myself like the developer and DBA whisperer, because it was like a challenge of mine to get through, because there were certain departments where, and this was, prior company too, you certain departments where you just can't break through. They're just a wall. They're just, they don't like auditors. They don't like risk people, compliance people. It's just a wall, right? And for me, it was always like challenge accepted. I will win you over. I will, yeah, we will coexist and we will work together. And so I think that was something that I didn't think would be like, before I transitioned to security, I thought you needed to be, this super technical person to succeed in security. But I also found that, yes, that is a good skill, but if you're a jerk, no one's going to listen to you.
Yes.
Nobody. They will just tune you out, or they're going to think that you don't know what you're talking about, or, if you can't speak the same language also, like, I've been in rooms where super technical person is just rattling off stuff and talking a mile a minute and not reading the room and realizing everyone's like, what's going on? So I would say that would be one thing, and that's something that you can grow into. It's something that I was not I was a very shy person. I mean, I still consider myself somewhat, shy, but it was something like when I was in consulting back in the day, like I had to really practice, because my boss would drag me to these sales meetings, these lunch meetings with potential clients or current clients. And I was like, please don't make me, please don't make me have this awkward lunch with people I don't know. And he, like, I just kind of learned to ask questions and you just kind of learn how to approach people and, get conversations started.
Oh, I know you're good at that. Kim's very charming.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. So, so first of all, I'm supposed to ask everyone to click the thumbs up button if you are enjoying this. That is a thing. If you're watching it after, please also click the thumbs up button, because that's awesome and good things to do, and then hit subscribe. But more importantly, if you were to move your hair slightly, could we see your shirt?
Yes.
What is this organization that is on your t-shirt?
Why, Tanya, I didn't think you'd ever ask. This is the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And I usually, when I go to DEF CON every summer, I usually go to their booth and I sign up for my annual membership and I get a t-shirt. And because DEF CON was virtual this year, I donated online.
Me too.
And I got this shirt, and then I got the 30th anniversary shirt as well, which I wore yesterday. So I decided to wear this one today, and it has the DEF CON.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it has a little QR code in the back.
Oh my gosh, don't load that QR code. It can't be good.
No. And so this organization, I actually have I've crossed over into my personal life. So I have kids that are learning virtually right now. There's a lot of parents out there with questions about, not only virtual learning, but like online gaming, Minecraft, Roblox, things like that. And so I share a lot of articles from EFF, a lot of questions that they have about data privacy for children. I'm a huge advocate, for protecting our children's data. And I, made a huge stink about it at my kids' school, about, ensuring that we, protect our children's information when we use Zoom, for classroom.
Thank you.
Learning. So EFF, I love them. I love what they stand for. I love the information that they share, and everyone should donate.
I did. I got a hoodie because Canada is slightly colder than California, where you live.
Yes. Yeah. I can be in t-shirts until at least the end of this month, at least mid-October.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, so let's say someone thinks, okay, so this is awesome. I want to do what Kim does. That sounds great. And so what type of training path could they take to get that? Actually, let's start with, Are there some types of technical skills that they need, and then what training would they take to get to your job, technical or not technical?
Yeah, so that's a hard question because I didn't get into this role in a traditional way. I mean, I didn't have a degree in information security. I was a biochem major. Kind of fell into this, kind of transitioned into security through certain opportunities. But I would say one way is if you're currently in security doing something else, either if you're a pen tester or or in application security or any other type of security arm or vulnerability management, and you're interested in GRC, is you're already doing a little bit of what I do. It's just your own, you're already assessing risk if you're, you're in vulnerability management. If you're a pen tester, you're already risk ranking your findings. And so just honing in on that and maybe partnering with your existing, GRC person, and kind of like I think the most value with getting into the role that I'm in is just on the job learning and on the job opportunities. You can even be your own, like your resident, I've always had a vision that like every arm in an organization should have some type of GRC person, because I feel like risk should not just be, burdened to just one team or one group. I feel like everybody should understand how to assess risk with what they're doing. Everything that you do has risk.
Yeah, AppSec people have to do that too.
Yeah. So I think just, if you want to transition, if you're currently in a different role, and then traditionally, I know, if you have a degree, like if you went to school, you're going to school right now, a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity or a master's, that's entry level, that's bare minimum requirement to get in, to have a degree, or certifications. I know CISSP, CISA, I've seen that a lot.
What's CISA stand for?
A CISA is a Certified Information Systems Auditor.
Oh, okay.
And it's provided by ISACA. And so it's usually the standard for an auditor. So when I was in IT internal audit, that was the standard certification that you get. But all of those certifications, you need 5 years experience.
Yeah. So, how's that work?
Oh, gosh,
you're like, it doesn't?
That's a whole separate podcast, right? I feel like I fundamentally have
issues
with
opened.
I don't know. I would say, gosh, it's such a hard question. It's such a hard question because I feel like the companies are all over the place as far as their expectations. Some companies are more open-minded about your background and willing to look at like your experience and how it can relate to risk. I know when we look at resumes for open positions, in our department, I'm not looking for, how many certifications they have. I'm looking for experience. I'm looking for
what type of
anything.
What type of thing would be good? Like job experience, like help desk?
So, I would say any engineer, I would never really met anyone that's wanted to go from engineering to security, but let's say they did. So if somebody had like an infrastructure background, right, or a networking background, right now it's such a huge need. You and I have had this conversation. I keep saying that because we've talked about this stuff before, and now we get to report it.
I know, that's why I invited you on.
So, we talked about how developers really need to understand network security, like networking, and networking controls. Somebody that has, like, if somebody was a developer and they wanted to be in GRC for some reason, that would be amazing because they understand how apps work, and they would if they were able to be in the risk role, they could actually speak that language to other devs and get on board with why, encryption is good. And
I know I went from dev to AppSec, and being able to speak dev has been the most valuable possible skill. And then being able to read code, number 2.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I think reading, having automation is a big thing. A lot of what we do is manual. A lot of it is, documenting things and writing things up, and it's not so glamorous, documenting procedures or documenting security requirements. But there are certain things that the GRC field itself has so many opportunities for automation. Shifting away from that old school, okay, we're going to put this in the GRC tool and then file this in this database. My other vision of the future of GRC is being able to build automation into what we do, so we can tell an app team in real time, hey, this is the risk stance of what your application looks like from, a vulnerability standpoint, a configuration standpoint, a code security standpoint, and be able to give them a score, a risk score, so they understand how risky it is in their environment. Yeah, I'm gonna turn on my office light real quick.
Okay.
It's getting dark.
I am so into risk measurement. I know you might not think that, but I literally was recording yesterday as part of our new course for We Hack Purple. I did a section on how to do an in-house risk analysis, how to rank it and what you should rank that score on, so that you could rank all your different apps, so that, because you can't be oh, this CVE is totally the same as, this high or whatever, and then you have things oh, yes, that technically is a really bad vulnerability, but it would take 3 PhDs 4 years to be able to exploit it. So I don't care that you think it's a 10, it's actually a 2, so go away.
Yeah.
And I feel it actually applies to every single area of InfoSec, but for some reason, people are oh, well, that's that's GRC, that's not us.
That's GRC, do that. We don't do that. No, you can absolutely do that. And that's what I mean, is that, GRC is GRC is everywhere. Risk is everywhere. Even my day-to-day life. Parenting is risk management.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
Parenting is thinking of how many ways your child could perish. That was the first 5 years of me being a new mom, was me going through all these scenarios of ways my kid could die.
Oh my gosh, I want to make a meme out of you. It's parenting is risk analysis, and then every single day, is my child gonna die? I must prevent every risk.
Yeah.
Oh, you're amazing. That would be such a good meme, because every parent would be I don't know what risk analysis is, but I'm an expert at it.
Pretty much.
Oh my gosh, you're amazing. Okay, so I want to take a second to thank our sponsor. Sonatype is tonight's sponsor. Thank you very much. They make a software composition analysis tool, so it checks all the third-party code in your app. They also have a tool called Firewall, which will block traffic from your code repository, or not your code repository, your package manager repository. So you can't download insecure third-party dependencies in the first place. And I love that they sponsored our podcast, because then that means we can make more free content. Yes.
Yay, thank you.
Yay. So.
Yes.
Pardon?
I said, yay, sponsors.
Yes. Okay, so now I'm going to ask the tough question, which has a little bit to do with cheese. So one of the ways that I learned that I was middle class was I realized, I went to the grocery store and I was I kind of want to try this cheese. And then I realized I had enough money to buy both cheese. And I was I am no longer lower class. Yes, I'm middle class. And now I can actually buy up to 3 types of cheese if I want. So I personally consider myself upper middle class. And the reason
But are you buying reserved cheese? The reserved
Well, so this is the question for you, because we want to know if this type of job pays well. So can you buy the reserve cheese? Because I can't right now. I work at a startup. I am only allowed ramen.
Oh man. So I would say it depends on the company you work for.
Okay. What about government? Is it the same with government?
I'm not sure actually. Okay. But I would say even in the like non-government world, like the salary ranges. It depends on where you live. So you obviously, I live in San Diego, but if you live in the Bay Area, like you're gonna maybe be able to afford cheese. I don't know, because you're also
because you're homeless.
It's either cheese or rent. I don't, like, do I eat cheese or do I, get to make rent at the end of the month? But yeah. So I would say the salary like varies, because I've worked for a smaller company and a larger company, and a lot of times GRC is at the bottom because it's not like code, like you're not expected to code, you're not a coder, you're not in operations. A lot of security engineers, security ops engineers, they're on call and they're expected to be available when things break. And so in my type of role, like I'm not on call, and I don't, I'm not expected to. Yeah, so that's one of the advantages. So I know some people are willing to take a pay cut to work in GRC because the on-call life is not for them anymore, and that can be taxing,
Would you say though, like, because you're making it sound like it's really low, more than help, like it would be payment wise way above help desk though, right?
It would be above help desk. I mean, because it is a tech. They are expecting certification. So I would say, and so entry level, I guess, could range between. I'll have to. It'll be U.S. dollars, not Canadian dollars.
Okay. No one knows what those are. It's just McDonald's money. So I'm told, because it's a rainbow. That's how we roll down here, or up here.
I would say like $80,000, $80 to $100.
That's amazing.
Entry level.
That's way above a software developer entry level.
Yeah.
I think so. Or I mean, maybe I'm just old and I haven't been a software developer in a long time. But I'm pretty sure that in Canada, like a senior software developer could start at like 80, 90, or 100. In Canadian dollars, not even American dollars. So like,
yeah,
that sounds really
I'm not
good.
Americans are weird about sharing salary information. So I'm just basing that number based on, friends and
Canadians are weird about it too. But I've learned that when we keep that a secret, the person who wins is the boss and not any of the employees. And
so the cool, So the cool thing about California. And I learned this, I started doing this in interviews, is in California now, potential employers, they have to share with you the salary range of the job that you are applying for. And so whenever an HR person or hiring manager asks me, what is your expected salary? What are your salary expectations for this job? I say, well, whatever is within the range that is listed for this role.
Add 5 to the top number.
Yeah, exactly. Can you tell me what the range is? And then they can't say no. They have to share with you what that salary range is.
That's awesome. I have not had to negotiate how much I make at a job for a while because I work for me.
Yeah, so that is the I guess not the trick, but that is the just something to ask, especially, we talk a lot about women getting underpaid. That's a really good way to get a gauge for, what is their expected salary range for that job position, so that you don't give them a number that's way below what they have listed. And then they're like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So then when we offer her the bottom of the range, she's going to think it's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked for the Canadian government for 13 and a half years, which means there is no option for negotiation. However, I remember a bunch of men and I having a discussion about this, and they were saying, oh, well, Tanya, like, there can't be any sexism because of this. I'm like, I got promoted so late. I was running everything as like a level 2, like managing other employees, doing all this stuff. And they would say, oh, well, you're the most amazing too. I'm like, yeah, because I should have been a 3 years ago. That's why. And I'm not modest. And yeah, it's very frustrating. Yeah. Very, very frustrating.
So I know. And so I agree with you. I think that we need to not make salary, such a big, taboo thing to talk about, because I think that it's so important to also set realistic expectations for people too who are thinking about going into this industry.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking the question, because people never talk about this, and there are some jobs in cybersecurity that pay really well, and there's other ones that just don't. And if you knew that from the beginning, you might think, okay, so it sounds very exciting to found your own startup training company, but it turns out it doesn't pay really well to work at a startup, because you pay everyone else and then you pay yourself. But there's also if you're a pen tester and people are like, oh, they bill out at $1,000 a day. Yeah, but they don't work every day and this and that. And so that's part of why I wanted to make this a part of the conversation of the show, because a lot of people, they have no idea. They have no idea that, this pays way more than that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, this is definitely not pen test money, but it's, it's above, well, I don't really know. I've only heard, so I don't know if it's a fact or not. I think, SOC analyst work is, I know a lot of times it's hourly, and, a lot of roles are,
we are going to have someone on that does that. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, cool. So they can answer those questions.
Yeah. It is a way to sneak into cybersecurity.
Yeah. It's a good way, too. You learn a lot.
Oh, yeah. That's what I tell everyone to do. We have a question from the audience.
Yes.
Would you agree that having a good handle on your intuition is important in risk management?
Yes. And I want to crack jokes here, because I actually joke at work about my risk management magic 8 ball, because a lot of times, you can go, you can be like, oh, well, that kind of feels like a high risk, that kind of feels, having intuition is important, but it's equally as important to be, being able to anticipate, realistic, scenarios, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's important to because a lot of times, I call it textbook risk management, when you're oh, well, theoretically somebody could, compromise those credentials and be able to take down that entire application, right? Mm-hmm. But are you taking into consideration, where those credentials are stored and how often they're rotated, and the detective controls that are in place that would be able to detect if somebody were to break through to that particular network where that application is sitting? So you kind of have to think about all of the moving pieces and all of the existing realistic environment, and what that means, right? And then also a lot of times we get things in early, we get requests in to look at things, and being able to anticipate, oh, does this new thing have impact on this other thing that's kind of unrelated, but maybe could be related because people aren't talking to each other right now, and maybe they should have a conversation because they could be duplicating efforts.
Has this happened to you?
I don't know. Just saying, theoretically, no. So I think intuition is good, but I think knowing what to do with that intuition, being able to take action on it and being able to like do something about it. Because you can have intuition about stuff, or you can be like, oh yeah, that's a terrible idea, and just say it. But
yeah, you have to have. Yeah, no one's going to go just on that. They want more.
Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
No, it does. That was really good. It was an awesome question. It was an excellent answer.
Yeah, good question.
Okay, so let's say someone in the audience, they're like, Kim's awesome and GRC sounds rad. I would like to do some of this. What is an actionable step that they could do to try to work towards that as a job? So let's say someone in a different area of IT and they're interested in GRC. And by that we mean governance, risk, and compliance, just in case someone missed that earlier.
So I'm trying to think of a logical answer without cracking jokes. Because I'm thinking, why would anybody want?
Do you like what you do?
I do. I'm actually really good at what I do. But I kind of fell into it. It wasn't like I woke up one day and I was like, I think I want to be a GRC. I think I want to work in governance, risk, and compliance.
That's because you didn't see this podcast and hear how cool it was from my friend Kim.
So I guess, here's a way, if it's possible, is to encourage, like, if you work for an organization that's siloed, present to your management an opportunity to collaborate. This is an opportunity to collaborate with like cross-functional security departments. And think of a project, that you can work on that involves a GRC person. And being able to kind of learn from them and show your value. And, if they have an opening, a lot of times, that's the easiest way is if there's an opening in the department and you express interest. But the biggest thing is being able to, I think a lot of times, and I've had this happen. I've had people with very strong pen test backgrounds, apply for GRC role. And I always tell them up front, I'm like, listen,
there's going to be no coding, right?
You have a brain, like, you like to break things. Like, pen testers love to break things, right? You can't break things in this role. You can hire people to break things, and you can tell other people to break things, but you have to tell people how to fix them. You can't touch anything or break anything. Like, are you going to have a problem with that? And they're like, no, it's fine. And then like 10 minutes into the interview, they're like,
this sucks.
Yeah, I like big things a lot. So yeah, I don't have a good answer. I would say getting like the hands-on experience, like getting like working with the GRC teams and like getting that like getting a like feel for how they do GRC, because different companies different companies do GRC slightly different. Their scoping range can vary. In my last GRC job, I was doing vuln management scanning and running change control board and doing security awareness and doing compliance.
That's a lot.
But I was in a GRC role, right? So like, I guess it really depends on what your company, like how they function, how their GRC role functions, and how your skill set can enhance that department.
I like it.
best answer.
No, that's a great answer. Thank you. I also think that if you could reach out to the department you're interested in, no matter where you work, if you work somewhere, they do incident response, you work somewhere, they do, whatever the thing is, if you're really interested, you should definitely go talk to that team and be like, what's
definitely.
up? That's how I got on the security team. I kept constantly reporting security problems, and then eventually they had a security incident, and I was like, hey, can I come? And they're like, fine. And then I was like, oh, I can read the code. Oh, that says select star from. It went like that. And I just kept, being helpful until they're like, do you just want to come work here?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we are nearing the end of the podcast, so I have two very serious questions. They're so serious, Kim. Do you do things that you are willing to talk about on this podcast outside of InfoSec that you want to tell us about? Perhaps there's an organization that interests you. Like WISP?
Like WISP, EFF. You know what? This pandemic has actually, I'm gonna give the little backstory before I answer my question. So this pandemic has actually brought so much balance back into my life. Like and as a result, I've scaled back on, the nonprofit work and scaled back on, a lot of the stuff I was doing like outside of work and family. And, I am taking advantage of the fact that, I don't have all of these social obligations or things that are normally in our orbit. Mm-hmm. And so, outside of work right now, I don't do much, but it's not an organization, but I've started baking again, although not recently because it's been so hot. But I have a biochemistry background, and so baking for me takes me back to my lab days, because I can follow a recipe and measure things and put things together and create something and try to make it perfect. So
and then you get to eat it.
Yes,
way better than just science.
True. Yes. And so so I've been baking a lot and I'm trying to perfect my buttercream frosting recipe.
Oh my God. Can I come over?
Absolutely.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Yeah.
What do you put buttercream icing on?
Cupcakes, or I started putting frosting on brownies, chocolate frosting.
What about banana bread?
Chocolate chips.
Oh, yes. See, this is why we're friends.
Yeah, mini chocolate chips, because I don't like them too big. They're small enough, and so they kind of hide in with the banana chunks. Yeah.
Oh my God, that sounds so good. So basically, I'm gonna travel to Kim's place now. I'm gonna break the law and cross the border just for that. That sounds so good. Okay.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought that we weren't allowed to come cross the border, but you would be allowed.
Yeah, so I can go to your country, but then I can never go home ever again. So I feel like if I visit, visits imply that then you go back to where you're from. That you don't just. That's why
we have an expert there. You're welcome to stay, and you can help me bake. So, and you can host your podcast from my office.
From California. I feel like I would definitely have to put some blonde streaks in my hair to fit in permanently in California, because,
No, I think purple's good. Purple is the new blonde.
Oh, I like that. That. Okay, so we have one more question, but before that, everyone that is listening, if you have enjoyed yourself, please press the subscribe button. And if you're listening, then you might be subscribed if you're already on a podcast. And then I would like to ask you to leave us a review, because reviews help other people see that we are worth listening to. And also, if you send We Hack Purple on Twitter or LinkedIn, a screenshot of your review, we will mail you stickers in the mail. I am so bribing people for podcast reviews. I'm aware.
And Tanya has the raddest stickers.
Yes. On the bottom right-hand corner of this screen, they can see what one of the stickers will look like. There will be a Tanya, a She Hacks Purple sticker, and there will also be an OWASP sticker. Yeah, that's right. All sorts of bribery from Tanya today. Oh, there's one more, there's a comment in the chat. Now you're talking another language I can understand. I worked as a baker in a British restaurant for a few years. Nice, Jacob.
Yes.
Bakers unite.
Yay, baking.
Yes. I do gluten-free baking, and tonight after this actually is banana bread time. And maybe you could send me that recipe for the icing. I don't usually put icing, but I don't know, I feel like a rebel.
Yeah. Oh, I have a great recipe for you. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have one more very serious podcast question before we say goodbye. And this is, what if someone wants to get a hold of you, Kim? What if they want to see more of you? Is there a place where they could follow you, perhaps on a site called Twitter?
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Gadget Squirrel. And I have my DMs locked to only people that I follow. So send me a follow request. But yeah, that's the best way.
Kim's totally happening, and she's a super wonderful friend, just like completely unrelated to this podcast. And she even says yes to be one of your guests right at the beginning when she's not sure if your new podcast is going to be good or not. She trusts you and says yes.
Yes. No, this is great. I was so excited. I was nervous for, I'm always nervous when I do these things, but I was so excited because I have not done like an InfoSec chat or event like with a friend. So this was really cool because we know each other, and it's like a public conversation, like a broadcast conversation that you and I would normally have.
I know.
Except we'd be talking a lot more about cheese. Like we'd be drilling down types of cheese.
Right? We might even have to go out and get some, because sometimes you have to. You can't just talk.
Yeah.
You have to walk the walk.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being on the We Hack Purple podcast. And now...
Thank you. So fun.
Thank you. Okay, so now I am going to show the amazing image that we made for today, and we are going to say goodbye. So thank you so much for coming to the We Hack Purple podcast today. Thank you to our sponsor, Sonatype, and thank you to our guest, Kim Lamoureux. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much. And...